Welcome to No More Bad Mondays. I'm Matt.
And I'm David, here to share ways to get Microsoft 365 working for you.
You join us as part of a video series, Use Teams for Everything, where we streamline the management and employee experience by using the Teams mobile app as a powerful hub. Bring as many operational functions as possible with an easy reach of every single employee.
In this episode, we're looking at the news feed and how to populate it with your big organizational messages. Now, if you haven't already seen our episode on setting up a SharePoint communication site and the Viva Connections facility, you'll definitely want to take a look, as you'll need to have done that first.
We also have episodes on setting up the Viva Connections dashboard and resources tab. Remember, if you find this useful, hit like and subscribe and head over to nomorebadmondays.com for courses, support, implementation plans, training materials and more.
And if you like what you see but want us to handle the project for you, simply get in touch. Let's get started. Thanks for joining us at Leaf and Ground here in the Cotswolds. So, Matt, the news feed in Teams, what would you use it for?
Well, we're all aware of chat and how it's great as an operational tool, but sometimes organisational news can get buried, and there's no real effective way to promote it consistently to everyone. The news feed gives you a place where you can publish attractive news items in a more curated and managed way than you can in chat, and you can control how it's prioritised.
So you tend to get a strength of message in the news feed that you don't necessarily get in chat.
That's correct. So some of the items that might be better suited to sharing via the news feed would be things like business changes and updates, letting the team know of important company news and developments,
celebrations of work milestones and achievements,
team spotlights where you can recognise outstanding performance,
links out to employee surveys to collect feedback,
FAQs covering common questions from employees or that they might get from customers.
Important one this, wisdom and advice from senior staff or other industry experts, like me on the No More Bad Mondays newsfeed, of course.
Yes, or if they're really lucky, me. They might also post job or training opportunities.
Of course, just because you post this stuff doesn't mean you'll get good engagement. So remember to involve the team in creating content, encourage emojis for instant feedback, and you must get your senior staff to engage to get the ball rolling. And you can always boost interactivity with competitions and rewards.
Okay, so what are we going to dive into today?
Well, we'll look at creating a news web part in the SharePoint communication site. We show how to create and publish posts and how to promote them and target the audience.
Let's get going.
You'll remember from our Viva Connections episode that we created a communication site in SharePoint to hold our news feeds and to hold our resources and also to configure our buttons on our dashboard. So when you created that communication site, by default you get the format that you're seeing in front of you on screen. Now this format has got certain elements that aren't of any use to us because we're simply using this site as a place to hold content for publishing via the Teams mobile app. So for example, all of these panels that dominate the top of this site are of no real use to us. So we'll make some quick edits to this SharePoint page to get rid of the things that we don't need. I'll also talk you through how you edit SharePoint pages very briefly so that you will be a little bit more au fait with how that is done if you're not already aware of it. So we want to edit the page, and then with SharePoint, editing is pretty straightforward. If you click on anything, you get icon sets, and those icon sets have some simple actions which are either about editing, about moving, duplicating or deleting, and then there are some other specific icons that might relate to the entity that you're clicked on. So for example, we've got the number of tiles that exist within this section. If we want to just delete this section, then all we're going to do is we're going to click delete, and you can see that it moves the sections that were below it further up. So for us, what this means is that now we have our news sitting at the top of the page on SharePoint, which is what we want because our news is going to be the one that we most frequently use because we're creating news stories that are going to be published via the Teams mobile app in the news feed. Further down, you can see that there are some other items that we don't want, like for example this events. So if we click on that and click delete, that will go. I'm going to leave documents there. We may end up having documents in this site, and this would be an easy way to browse them. If we wanted to add any additional items to this particular section, wherever you see this line with a plus, you can click on that and it opens up the other web parts that you can use in SharePoint. I'm not going to go through these here. That's for another time. So we're just going to publish that site, and that will give us a site that has at its very top news. And that's what we want, because our news is going to be the thing that we go to most when we're adding news stories. So switching to our live site, you can see that there's already a news section here that's populated with a couple of news stories, and we're going to create a new one in here. So if we click on the add and we click news post, you can see we get an option of a number of templates on the left hand side. Now, I would recommend that you start with a blank news item, simply because the templates on the left hand side have lots of columns. Where we're focusing on the mobile experience, everything will show in a single column in any case. So let's create it with one column in question and format it in a way that we can be sure that it will be seen in a quite similar way to the way that we're designing on this site. So we've got some options. We can create it as a private draft. You do that if you were creating a post that was time sensitive. So if it was a new product launch and you didn't want anybody to see the draft at all other than yourself and people you share it with, you would create it as a private draft. Otherwise, you can just create a post if it's non-sensitive. So we're going to create a post, and you can see at the very top we need to add a title. So I've got some text here that I'm just going to paste in, and we're going to add some text below it, and we're going to format that text. So you can see that there are the normal formatting tools, so you can change font and you can change alignment, etc. So we're just going to make the heading green, and that will do for now. And then we're just going to add a couple of images below. So to add a new web part, which is where you would add a new image, we're going to click on that and we're just going to say add some images. Now, you've got the opportunity to use stock images or search for web, look at your OneDrive, look at images that already exist on the site, or to upload or take it from a link. So we're going to actually upload some images because these were ones that we've taken and put on our local PC. We're going to upload them. This will upload them to the SharePoint site and will then be usable on SharePoint site in the future, not just for this news post. So we're going to select an image here and we're going to upload it, and we're going to add our image to our page. And as you can see, we've now got our title, we've got our text, and then we've got our image underneath. And we'll go on and we'll add another couple of images. Right, so there we have it. There's the event, there's the chefs preparing the food, there's the drink stations, and you can see there are the opportunity to have comments on or off at the bottom of the page. We won't be using those, so we'll turn those off. You can also caption your images, and there are various options with regards to resizing alignments, etc., which I won't go into here. You know, the icons are very, very straightforward. Click on them. It's very, very easy to create SharePoint pages if you've never done it before. Just mess around with it. You can't really go wrong, and you know, it's actually quite fun. Okay, so where we've actually created our item here, there's then just another couple of things that we need to think about. Firstly, we need to know who we want to see this item. So if we go into page details, you can see that there are various things that you can put in regarding the page, such as a description if you wanted to. You have got this option here, which I'll show you how to turn on if it's not already available on your site, and that is audience targeting. Audience targeting is extremely powerful. What this means is that you can actually have a particular post that will only be promoted to a group of your staff depending on how they're specified here. So say, for example, I said, well, actually, I only want the management group to see this post. If I click management members, only they will see it. So the rest of the employees will not. This is really, really powerful because, of course, if you've got a story that you want to present in slightly different ways to different audiences, it means you can have the same story told in a number of different ways as is appropriate to the people receiving it. Or there may be some stories that are simply not relevant to certain groups of staff. And you must remember that when you create a news post, it will supplant other posts. So if you're posting news posts that aren't relevant to certain employees, then it will move the posts that are relevant to them further down their news feed. So your audience targeting in a clever way is certainly a sensible thing to do, in my opinion. So what we're going to do, we've identified who we want to target as an audience, and we're going to post and send. So we've got two final things to cover, the first of which is boosting a post. So along the top bar of your post, you see this icon boost. If you click on that, it gives you the opportunity to boost this post and to promote it in terms of where it appears on the news feed. And you can select a date in which you want to have it boosted until. So this is useful, but do be aware that if you use boost, then it will potentially prevent more recent unboosted news stories from showing prominently in the news feed. So it's to be used with some caution. So the final thing we want to do before we look at the mobile app to see our post and see how it appears is to make our library experience a little bit easier for managing our news posts. So if we want to do that, we need to go from our home page in our communication site into settings, and we want to go into site contents. Now, news posts are held alongside all other pages, all other SharePoint pages, so we need to go into site pages to see them. Now in site pages, there are a mixture of news posts and of regular pages. So some of those news posts might be published and some may be unpublished, and there's no way out of the box of seeing which is which. So to do that, we need to add a column. In fact, we need to add two columns, and we click on show and hide columns to bring out the ones we want. The first one we want is promoted state, and I'll explain that in a minute. And the second one we want is audience. So we'll click apply and it'll bring those two columns in. Now, in promoted state, you can see that there's a mixture of zeros, twos and ones. Zeros are regular site pages, so you can ignore those. Twos are published news posts, and ones are draft news posts. Audience is self-explanatory, where there's an audience that has been associated with a particular post, it appears in that column there. So if you wanted to group these particular states, you can do, and you can group by promoted state. This will then give you all of your site pages, followed by all of your draft posts, followed by your live posts, which is a much, much easier way of managing. Right, let's take a look on the Teams mobile and see how our post turned out. So we'll go to the news feed. As you can see, it's identified as boosted. And if we have a look down, you can click to see more, which shows all of our text. But to see all of the images, we actually need to click on the main image in the post. And then that opens up the post in full to see the other images. So you could argue that it's actually in some ways better to use a single image and text and have the link maybe out to your further images or a bigger post. But you know, that's really for you to assess, and it probably depends on how good your messaging is to staff into how they use the feed and whether they are likely to click on the image to see the full post It's just something to be aware of.
We hope you found this video useful. Please use the comments for any questions or thoughts you have, and head over to nomorebadmondays.com for courses, support and more.
This video is part of a series focused on getting the most out of Teams. So do check out the other episodes, particularly the other 3 in this Dashboards, Feeds and Resources mini-series.
Thanks for watching.